Hello, hello. I am live and I am so excited to be here with you today. I am going to talk about the problem of uncertainty when you make a move abroad and when you're living abroad. It feels rather daunting to not know whether or not your visa is going to be approved or how long it's going to take to get your health card, all of those things that it seems are endless as somebody who's living in a foreign country. But there are ways to navigate that, and I'm going to share some stories that I have about my uncertainties living here in France, as well as some strategies to work through those. All right. So if you can hear me, I'd like to know that. So in the comments, if you could type in where you're joining from today and what you are most looking forward to hearing about. All right. As people let me know that they can hear me, I am going to continue assuming that you can. My name is Patricia Brooks. I am an American who moved to France in 2018. I can't believe it has been so long already. And I live in the south of France and I help people who are ready to start the next chapters of their lives living and thriving in their new country. And I think that is the big key here. You move abroad and you have certain ideas of what your life is going to look and feel like, and you get here and it's one thing after another. And sometimes you lose sight of that. And so that's what I do when I coach people. I help them to, live the kind of life they want to in their foreign country. And on this channel, I talk about my life in France, about moving abroad and how to live the kind of life you deserve to. And today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about uncertainty. Uncertainty, making a move abroad. Maybe you're not even sure where you want to move. Uncertainty once you get abroad, all of the administrative matters, all of those headaches. And I'm going to share some of my stories that maybe you've heard before, but maybe you haven't, and talk about how to move through that unpleasant part of being in a new place or moving to a new place. All right. So, one question I have for you is what sorts of uncertainty are you looking to move through? Let me know that in the comments, and I'm going to look and see who is here. Natina. Hi, Natina is joining from Kosovo, and she can hear me. And we've got Carrie 6849 from New Jersey. Yeah, what part of New Jersey? I'm from Jersey. You from Jersey? um, you're really interested in moving abroad and want to learn more. So great, great. Glad you're here. And Igami Glow, welcome back. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. So this idea came to me because this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, and I've been coaching on this a lot recently. So as I said, it seems like there is a never-ending flow of things that you have to deal with, and you don't necessarily know how to go about doing it. Maybe it's in a foreign language. Maybe the time it takes is much longer than it might be in your country, your own country. There is just so much uncertainty, and after a while, that builds up. There's a stress around not knowing and wanting to know and wanting to be done and wanting to have your visa in hand, or wanting to have the apartment, or wanting to finalize the purchase of a house, or getting your driver's license. All of these things make it so challenging to, once you are in a country, especially, to really integrate and feel like it is your own home. And it can take longer than you anticipate. 18 months, 2 years. I think I was feeling like France was my home. Maybe 18 months in, I could breathe and relax a little bit more. I felt a little more settled, but those first 18 months were challenging. But it doesn't stop after that, because here I am 8.5 years in, and I am dealing with some uncertainty that I'm going to get to. All right, let's see who else has joined us. Carrie says she's right next to Princeton area. Ah, yes, yes. um, all right, yes, I'm from Willingboro, so south of Princeton, right outside of Philly. And we've got, hey, Angela Sims Evans, bonsoir from Bordeaux. I hope you're enjoying your time in Bordeaux. Let me know what uncertainties you're dealing with now, and maybe we can address them. All right. So I want to jump in. One of the things that when I first got to France, I struggled with or had a big challenge with was my apartment. I had rented my apartment for a whole year back in 2018. It was my understanding that I needed to get a year lease. And so, like a rule following person, that's what I did. And I got my visa. And when I got to the apartment that looked wonderful on the internet, it had this this smell of sewer gas. And I thought, oh, maybe I can, maybe it's all in my mind was the first thing I thought. The next thing I thought, well, maybe it's really not that bad. Maybe it will go away. But after a couple of days, I was waking up with headaches, and I knew that I would not be able to stay there for 2 weeks, let alone 52 weeks. And so I was petrified. I was like, oh my gosh, I have this lease agreement that I have signed, and I have to get out of this. And so there was a lot of, I don't know if it was fear, because it felt like an urgent situation. And I think was my saving grace. I felt like it was an urgent situation. And so my mind didn't have to think about how uncertain or precarious my situation was. My mind did not have the time to grasp that. It was like, I have to get out of here. I have to get to some place where I can live and not have this horrible smell that's going to make me sick, that's going to give me these headaches. And so I got into action. And so that is the first thing that I think is very helpful. When you feel uncertain, you don't know which direction to go in. And for me, for this particular situation, there was uncertainty, yes, but there was an emergency sort of feel to it. And so I started looking for new apartments even before I knew I could get out of my old lease agreement. And that led me to my new landlord, my then new landlord, who was also a doctor, and who knew, oh, well, if you have a medical certificate and you show that to your landlord, then you can break the lease and not have any problems. So right there, just by looking around at different places, I got my answer. So I think that's the first thing that you can think about when you are uncertain. Maybe you're not sure where you want to move abroad. Okay, well, what are you doing about that? Are you just, exploring on the internet? Maybe it's time to go on a scouting trip, or maybe it's time to talk to somebody who already lives there so that you can get a little more information, step forward and have a different vantage point, so that that uncertainty doesn't, just fester in your mind and create a stress of, oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. All right. So that is thing number one. Action can create clarity and can help you move through some of that uncertainty. All right. Still want to kind of know what sorts of things that you are feeling uncertain about if you're planning a move abroad. Let me know that in the comments. If you're already abroad and have been for a little while, what are the things that you find challenging and make you feel uncertain and stress you out? Drop those in the comments, because I'd like to address them in a minute. All right. We got a couple more people who have joined us. Laura from Colorado, hello. And Robin, where you been? It has been ages. So good that you are here. Are you in France yet? Oh, you're getting closer. I see you're getting closer. And Julia, hey, Julia, how are you? So glad that you are here with me today. All right. All right. And Atina says she is looking forward to adventuring through the uncertain timeline. Here we go. Of getting her temporary residence card for North Macedonia sorted. I know, I know. I'm grateful. You're grateful for the coaching calls with the ladies. She's a member of the Carefree Expat Incubator Program, and so each week she can come to a group coaching call to kind of talk through, have a sounding board, get ideas to get talked off the ledge so that then she can, take it one day at a time and not allow that uncertainty to make her just say, yeah, it's not worth it. All right. So thank you for sharing that, Natina. All right. And Angela Sim says, just starting the visa renewal process. That, that, that. Um, yeah, why don't we talk about that one? Because I think that when you come to a new country, you may have a visa that is good for 1 year, or you may have a visa that's good for longer. If you have a visa that's good for 1 year, you're going to feel like you are always renewing your visa. And getting the first visa or is stressful because, oh, are they going to approve me or aren't they? And you can see a lot of times on the internet, some people are posting, oh, I got declined. And then you see that, and that starts to get in your head, and that uncertainty kind of wells up. But I think each time I apply for my new resident card, there's this hesitation. Are they going to grant me um, a resident card? Am I going to be able to stay here? Because being a visitor, really, in another country, they have the power to say no. And that is, I think, one of the things that makes moving abroad and living abroad feel so uncertain and feel so stressful. Um, when I was when I was um, I started a business here in 2021. So I'm at my 5-year anniversary next month. So I can't believe that that is the case. And that feels so good. But when I initially applied for the Profession Liberal visa, I I got approved for 1 year, and then I had to renew. And I had to show that I had made the French minimum wage. And I didn't realize that that was going to be a requirement until maybe 3 months before I had to go to my appointment. And so the last 3 months, I did okay. However, I didn't reach the French minimum wage, and I was looking at, how I was doing, wasn't sure if at the rate I was going that I would. And so I started to, one of the things I put on my business plan was project consulting. And so I decided I was going to reach out and look for some work that way, so that at least that I could have a contract that I could include in my dossier. And it was very stressful time, very uncertain time. Here I am, having a coaching program that helps people move abroad, and I'm thinking, am I going to get thrown out, right? So that was a really scary time for me. And I worked to get a contract, which did not manifest itself, fortunately, because the person I would work for, that probably would have been a bigger problem than it was worth. But I still I couldn't show that I had the contracts in hand or had made the French minimum wage in that time frame. So I sweated. But what I did in order to move through that stressful time was, I knew I had to apply. I gathered my documents. I went in prepared. I had to have my business plan translated into French, because when I applied, I applied in the US, so the plan was in English. And I could have translated it myself, but I said, you know what, I just don't have the energy. I hired somebody to do that. And the other thing that I did in preparation for, besides being very prepared for my visa appointment, was that I visualized myself going into the prefecture, driving in to Perpignan and going up to the building, and having the guard being quite pleasant. Sometimes they're a little gruff, just imagining it going as smoothly as possible, handing them all my papers, imagining that, I have everything I need. And that's what I did. I visioned that for about 2 weeks before, so that my body didn't sense like this was the first time I was doing it. So I felt a little bit calmer. And I think doing things like that when you are, doing something that taking an exam is another one, or you're going for your renewal, visualizing how it's going to go, visualizing it going smoothly, and being super prepared are things that can help you with that uncertainty as you move through that. So the end of my story is that I went in, everything went smooth. They gave me a récépissé, which is kind of like a receipt that says, okay, you're good to stay here for a certain period of time while your visa is being or your resident card is being processed. And then I waited, right? And I just kind of let it go. I said, I've done everything that I can do in my power to make this work. And I let it go. I didn't fret over it. And was rather quick, maybe a month, maybe 5 weeks later, I got my convocation saying, oh, come back to the prefecture. And I don't know if it said that you'd been approved, but I just assumed that I had been. And when I saw that I was and one of the things I was doing was I was kind of like bargaining. I was like, oh, just give me one more year. I know that the renewals are usually for either 2 or 4 years. I'm like, just give me one more year to prove myself. And so when I had to sign for it, and they passed it under the window, and I saw on there pluriannuel as a multi-year card. I thought, oh, maybe they gave me 2 years. And when I looked, they had given me 4 years, and I was like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so um, that is a real story that feels like, as I tell it, it makes me feel like, oh, I'm going through it all over again. And so that uncertainty rises in me. But just having had that experience and being able to share that with you, and how what I did to help make it a little bit more easy to go through, hopefully that helps. All right. So that's a good one, Angela, that starting the renewal process. And is your uncertain, is it, what about that is the thing that brings up some stuff for you? Let me know. All right. So that is thing number two. Thing number one was the smelly apartment, and taking action helped me move through it. Thing number two was a visa renewal that I wasn't sure that I had proven I'd be able to renew, and being super prepared, having everything I needed, and visualizing things going smoothly so that I could kind of fake out my body, and feeling like, oh, this is not something that is so unfamiliar. That was very, very helpful. All right. So if you are, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, because it helps with the algorithm. More people who need to see this will be able to see this. So I appreciate you doing that. All right. And thank you so much for joining me live here. If you have questions for me, go ahead and put them in the comments. You could put a Q before that. If you are feeling uncertain about your move abroad, or if you're already abroad and there's some uncertainties you're dealing with, let me know what those are in the comments so that we can address them. I can address them as they come up. All right. All right. So another time when I felt uncertain and a little bit disappointed in myself was when I went to exchange my driver's license. Now, here in France, if you are from one of 17 or 18 US states, there is a driver's license exchange, which means that you don't have to go to driving school and pay the 1,500 or 1,800 euros that cost. You don't have to take the exams in French, and go through all of that stress. Um, and I understand it's very challenging. So Virginia was one of the states that had the driver's license exchange. The thing is, you need to make that exchange in the first year that you're here. And so I was living in Perpignan in year number one. And I wasn't really in need of a car, so I didn't get one. And I wasn't thinking about my driver's license. But when I moved out to Surrey, I could see the value of having a car. There's a bus here, and I could get in and out of the city. But the times, after 7 p.m., I needed to be back in Surrey, or else I'd have to find another way home. And so I decided to buy a car. And I wanted to do my driver's license exchange. So I started the process at the end of my 2019. And so I'm a year and a half into my life here in France. And I get an appointment for sometime in early February. So that took some time. And the whole while I am thinking, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to have done this in the first year. Now I'm in year two, getting close to the end of year two. Um, am I going to be able to do the exchange, or am I going to have to sit for the driver's exam? And so I went to my appointment. I had all the documents that I needed, except for, I think there were two things I didn't have, and I wasn't really clear on what one of those things was. But they gave me a checklist. They said, you don't even need to make an appointment. You can come back with these documents, and then we can, finish, putting this through. And I thought, oh, that's great. I said, well, one thing, and this is 2020 now. This is February of 2020. One thing now, I'm getting ready to go back to the United States. So I'm going to need to hold on to my driver's license because when I'm there, I'm going to need to drive. And she said, no problem. How long are you going for? I said, oh, 3 weeks. When you get back, just come by and drop off those two documents and we can continue the process. Well, you know what happened in 2020? The coronavirus pandemic, right? So here I am in the United States, and I find myself stranded there, not for 3 weeks, but for 3 months. And so time is ticking, right? This uncertainty. Oh my gosh, I was supposed to have done this in the first year. Now I'm into, into my second year. Am I going to be able to do this thing? And when I got back in May, because I was supposed to get back sometime in March, when I got back in May, I went to the prefecture to give my papers with a little checklist, and they turned me away saying, oh no, everything needs an appointment now because COVID changed things. So long story short, um, they said that they were taking everything on. I think I submitted it. I submitted it. I got an appointment, and then 2 weeks later, they canceled the appointment. We said we're doing everything online, and I'm like, no, you can't do this. I need to have this appointment. It's already in process. So I sent my documents to the prefecture, and typically it takes a long time for them to respond. I got my documents back in the mail like a couple of days later, like, no, you have to do it online. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this online. And I had to wait until August to do this. So now I'm in uncertainty, right? But I said, well, I'm going to apply online and see what happens. And um, if I have to take the exam, I have to take the exam. I kind of stepped into acceptance of, okay, it's uncertain of whether or not this is going to be processed, if I'm going to, have, not have to take the driver's exam. And I put it in, crossed my fingers, and said, come what may. And so the strategy number three is sometimes you just have to accept a situation, an unknown situation, a situation that, well, if this situation comes to pass that you don't want to happen, that taking that other path that you didn't want to have to take, this knowing that you will accept it and do what you need to do. And then hopefully your path will be smooth. But if it isn't, then you've already kind of started processing, okay, I can make this other thing work. So sometimes acceptance of what you might need to do if things don't go your way is a way through, because in that acceptance, I stopped worrying. I said, I can't do anything else. So I accepted. And fortunately, the universe was on my side. 4 or 5 months later, I got a notice saying to send my Virginia driver's license in, and that was that. So, really uncertain, uncomfortable, stressful times. So, if you are moving to France and you are going to drive, or even if you aren't, it's a good thing to remember that if you come from a state that does do the driver's license exchange, go ahead and get that paperwork started as soon as you are able. I think it might be 3 months after you have gotten here. So take a lesson from me. All right, let's see what else we've got here. This Betty Loves Flowers says, congrats on getting 4 years. Well, thank you. Thank you. But as I've just mentioned, so I am getting ready to celebrate my 5th anniversary of my business here in France. And that means that my resident card is going to expire next month, which will lead into another uncertainty. That uncertainty that I spoke about of, oh my gosh, um, the visa uncertainty that we already spoke about, but I'm going to touch on that a little bit more and what I'm doing about not already having an appointment, waiting for that appointment. All right. So, Angela Sims says, I asked her, what about the visa renewal process is kind of giving her some pause, just hoping all goes well with the documentation and there won't be delays. Yes, and that's the other thing. Like here in France, there have been a lot of delays in getting visa paperwork or carte de séjour paperwork processed. And so, there's some people here who have applied and they may have jobs that rely on them getting their visa status renewed or their resident card status renewed, and it's putting them in a really bad situation. So I'm hoping all goes well for you too, Angela, and that there won't be delays, that it's smooth sailing. All right. All right. I see something about healthcare. All right. Oh, Jean-Jacques. Um, how are you doing? So good. Glad that you can join. Yes. All right. We'll talk about healthcare since that came up. And then we're going to move on to number 4, my situation number 4, and the strategy that I use to get around that. All right. So Laura S8674, how is healthcare in France? Were there any new changes for expats moving forward? Okay, so healthcare in France is really pretty good, right? You're not, if you get sick here, you have the carte vitale, you are not going to go bankrupt, right? The costs here are affordable. My first couple of years here, I was not in the know and didn't realize that even as a resident, not a citizen, but a resident, that you can get the carte vitale and have a lot of the health costs taken care of. Now, I think your question here is, were there any changes for expats around healthcare? And I think the question is that if you are on a visitor visa, there seems to be some sort of loophole that allows Americans to get a carte vitale and not have a fee associated with that, and that we're working on making it so that there would be a fee associated. I don't believe that they have started with the fee, but I think they're definitely going to move forward with that, but don't quote me on that. I think that's your question. If your question is around other changes for expats around other things, let me know and I'll address that. Oh, and then how is it? How is it? For me, where I am, I feel like I'm in a medical desert. I do have a general practitioner now who I am working with, and he's on probation. So I'm going to see how that goes. But I feel it feels good to finally have a general practitioner, because for about 18 months, maybe 2 years, I was going to a doctor, but he wasn't my primary care doctor. So there was not kind of like a consistency or somebody who was following my health care and journey, so that things would nothing would slip. So if you're in a bigger city, I think that that's less of a problem. But I'm really pretty happy with the healthcare system here. All right. Um, let's see. All right. So another thing that can create uncertainty and stress is if you're moving to a country that speaks a language that is not your native tongue. Um, and that you're studying, that you're maybe taking classes, have a tutor, and it might seem like you will never get the French language, like, or whatever language that you are learning. It may seem like you'll never understand fast spoken French or whatever your target language is. And for me, that was really, really challenging. I could communicate at an okay level when I first moved here. I couldn't read or write very well, and when a French person spoke at normal speed, I was like a deer in the headlights. I couldn't understand what they were saying, and that was so frustrating. And there's uncertainty around that because in order to, make friends, um, French speaking friends, is important for me to be able to communicate, at a deeper level than how was your day? Or something I might say at the supermarket, right? And so that was stressful of really not knowing if or when I would be able to connect at a deeper level. And so that was one of the things that that's one thing I think that you might experience when you are living in a foreign country is the uncertainty of will I ever get the language? Will people understand me? Will I be able to navigate, the administration, with in a different language? All of those things create these stressors for you. And I think the thing around the lesson there is that for me now I am at a B2 level, maybe even higher. I took the DELF exam back in March of 2025, and I plan to sit for the C1 um, the beginning of next year. Uh, One of the things that I didn't necessarily see happening as it was happening was I was learning French, right? You can feel like you're at a plateau. You can feel like you're not moving forward. But if you're consistent with studying, if you're consistent with daily practice, then you're going to move forward. And it's kind of an invisible sort of thing. And I think that's the frustrating part about it. And so, if you feel some uncertainty around learning a new language, I think the key is to be consistent with your studies because that's how you're going to get it, right? It's not going to come to you without that, and you need that reinforcement in your brain. But the second thing is know that it's a process that is happening in the background, and then one day things will click. And that's the way it was for me with understanding fast spoken French. Um, one day I was not understanding, hearing what they were saying, but sometimes hearing English words in what they were saying. And then the next, it was like, oh, I understood the whole thing, right? I did not a word here, not a word there. And it's amazing. So reminding yourself that this whole life abroad is a process, and that as you're going through it, you might not see all of the progress that you're making, but reminding yourself of that on a daily basis can help you with that uncertainty. All right. So if you have questions, be sure to drop them in the chat. If you have not liked this video, be sure to do that so that it helps with the algorithm. And if you are struggling with something that feels uncertain to you, let me know what that is and we can address that. Okay. So, the fifth thing that I want to share with you today about uncertainty is um, trusting, um, having a confidence anchor and trusting your past, the history that you've had. Um, for me, there is this, I have this feeling, this inner knowing that things are going to work out, and they might not work out in the way that I want them to. Like, I have this plan, and this is the way I want them to go, but they may work out in a way that I hadn't foreseen that may be better. And so I think that as I move forward with this, I am applying for a 10-year resident card, which will give me the right to be able to get a job here in France, and stay for 10 years without having to renew my visa. So that will be, a nice break. Having 4 years was a wonderful break, but having 10 will be even better. But the problem, as I was alluding to earlier, is that back in I guess it was the 22nd of June, I submitted my request to um, have an appointment at the prefecture. Now, this was a whole other thing that I went to a website. I Googled 10-year resident card, um, and what kept coming up was some cards for refugees and cards for people who have relatives who live here. And I was like, that's not the thing. And I couldn't figure out how to go about starting the process to apply. Well, finally, I think I did a chat GPT, and it gave me the exact name of the resident card that I was going for. And I was like, oh, I put that in. And then I went to, there's a new site called Anif. I went to that site to say, okay, this is the thing that I need to apply for, but there wasn't a button for me to apply for. And so there's uncertainty here. I know that I qualify for this card, but how do I do it? And not having that clarity, I think I spun my wheels for about 3 weeks, not constantly, but just kind of like, I want to get this going, and just kind of hitting my head up against a brick wall. And what I did for that was, it would get to a point where it's like, okay, I've been doing this search for a while. I'm coming up with the same thing, and just coming back fresh a few days later helped me to say, oh, wait a minute, this is saying this term, and I've been putting this term in. And then that kind of broke things open. And then digging down further, okay, now this isn't on the site. What do I do? And so I went to the prefecture site, and I sent a message saying, this is my situation. I would like a meeting. I'd like a rendezvous. And they came back 7 days later saying, okay, we got your message, and we will schedule your appointment when we get to the next round of appointment setting. And that was on the 28th of June. So a little over a month, not an extraordinarily long amount of time. However, as I said, come the middle of September, my carte de séjour is going to expire, and I want to at least have the process started. So that then creates this more uncertainty. When am I going to get this visa appointment? Did they, put my dossier on the side of the desk, or my request on the side of the desk, and they've forgotten about it? Oh, we're in August now, and in France in August, a lot of people go on vacation. Maybe I won't hear back until sometime in September. And then the question also becomes, at the end of August, I'm going to have a house guest, and I'm going to be going on vacation. So then, are they going to schedule this appointment when I'm not going to be available? All of this creates this churn, this uncertainty that doesn't feel good. And what I do is I, learn to be more patient. I'm definitely much more patient about this. But the another thing that I do that helps me to cope with the uncertainty is something that Robin shared in the chat. And Robin's been to a number of my Women Rising roundtables, which are wonderful, wonderful conversations where we talk about different topics. And she said that one of the roundtables, we focused on the top reasons why uh, that you're doing the thing that you're doing, so that you can stop focusing on necessarily the problem, but once the problem is resolved, why it's worth going through the trouble or the angst that you're going through. So, and that's something that I teach in my one-on-one coaching. That's something I teach in my group coaching. It's the first thing I teach in my group coaching. What's your why? Why are you going to move abroad and turn your life upside down so completely? Start over, in essence. And not a superficial why, not because, well, the the food is healthier in my target country. That's a very good reason, but why is that so important? Ask yourself that question again. Why is that so important? Well, because healthier foods mean that I'm going to be healthier. And why is that so important? Well, if I'm healthier, then I'm going to be around longer for to be with my grandkids. That is a really good why, right? That's a really deep why. And that's the sort of thing that as you're going through these challenges, as you're feeling the uncertainty and the stress around that, and you're questioning, is this even worth it? You come back to, yes, it's worth it because I am moving abroad for these reasons, for this reason, or for these reasons that will allow me to honor more fully a core value that is really important to me. And when you keep coming back to that, it kind of makes you, it grounds you. It kind of makes it feel like, oh yeah, this is something that is worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it because once I get through this, then this will be something I will be able to experience, have, do, be, or become. So what is your why? Thank you so much, Robin, for speaking to that. Let's see what else we've got in the chat. This Betty Loves Flowers said, losing the grip of control when you aren't in control is definitely a hard lesson. Yeah, it's a hard lesson, I think, for a lot of people. And I think that's the reason we struggle with uncertainty, is because we want to be able to control the situation. And when we are someplace that is not necessarily familiar, when the language isn't so familiar to us, when we don't know the process, like that just compounds things, and that feeling of not being in control. Um, and again, as I shared, if you can get to that point where you are recognizing that, you know, you've lived a lot of life and things have worked out in some form or fashion, as I said, maybe not in the way that you would have liked it to be, to work out, but that you move through, you get through, and you move on. And like, I think that is something that is vital. And a lot of times for me, it works out better than if I had gotten my way. Like, it's, and sometimes I don't see that, for years after, but when I do, it's like, oh, I needed to have that experience so that, and it is really grounding to have that confidence anchor to look back at the uncertainty and recognize that you will get through it. This too shall pass. All right. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you, Angela. Yes, I need all the prayers I can get. All right. Oh, somebody asked me a question about, Carrie asked this. If you did this all over again, would you still choose France? Which kind of ties into this other question. Um, did I have a plan B if things didn't work out for France? So if I had to do it all over again, I would have chosen France. France for me was it. Well, I'll say this. The French language was it for me. And I considered moving to Quebec City, Canada. Um, because I thought, well, I could, improve my French by moving there. But I recognized that for me, the winters and even the autumns would be just too cold for me. And so I kind of scratched that, came to France in 2015 for the first time and thought, yeah, I can see myself living here. Came back for a scouting trip in 2016 and found the place, like found Perpignan, which is where I started out. I said, yeah, this is my new home. It felt right. It was like this is where I'm coming. So I didn't have a plan B, because I guess I could have gone to another French speaking country, but for me, I had set my sights on France. So I don't know if that's the answer you want to hear, but I had my move here, and I write about this in this third book that I've written that I'm working to get published now, is the question that I try to answer the question of why I had to get to France, right? It was this otherworldly feeling that was driving me to do the things that I needed to do to make France happen. So I feel like France was in the stars for me, right? It was not, well, I want to move abroad, I could move here or here or here. It was like, oh, for some odd reason, all of a sudden, I want to move abroad. I was a homebody, I wasn't a big traveler, so it just didn't make sense. And so I feel like there was something in the stars for me that was driving me to France. And so I did not have a plan B. And yeah, I would choose France again. Thanks for the questions. Good question, Dion. Hi, Dion. Glad that you can join, another member of the Carefree Expat Incubator. Um, the next roundtable will be sometime in September. I have not chosen a date or a subject or a topic. So should be doing that in the next few days so that I can start preparing the materials. And I will let you know. Everybody will know. um, that the roundtable will happen. I don't even know, probably the third Saturday in September, but I will let you know for sure. And speaking of that, Dion, since you want to make it to a roundtable, what topic would you be interested in discussing or working through? Let me know. And anybody else who is interested in joining it's a Women Rising Roundtable. It's a group of no more than 9 women who receive a pre-work workbook to kind of start the process. The last one we had was um, the wisdom within, and we talked about intuition and learning to trust your intuition and follow that. And so there was the pre-work workbook, and then we met, and there were journaling questions and conversation all around that. And this last one was a really, really good one, because I learned so much from other people, and other people's stories of intuition have really helped me to say, yeah, there's something there, and to trusting it makes a lot of sense, even when it doesn't make sense to anybody else. So if you're interested, what kind of topics would you be interested in for a Women Rising Roundtable? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Um, the whole I'm not sure I understand this. The precursor list. I'm not sure what that means. Sounds very French. The precursor list. Let me know. Clarify what you mean by that. And you're interested in a roundtable, and you're interested in having a roundtable about what's your why? Is that what you're saying? Let me know. Clarify that so that I can speak to that. Let's see what else. All right. Carrie says, I attended the last roundtable you were mentioning and have not stopped thinking about it. was fantastic, engaging, opened my mind. Thank you. Yeah, it was, I think there were five attendees, and everybody participated very evenly. Sometimes there are more, some people participate more than others, and I'm not necessarily sure that everybody as engaged as they were on the intuition roundtable. This one was a really good one, and I know the next one is going to be equally good. But we need a topic, and I'll get you the date. Let's see. So for the appointment, okay, so I'm still not clear. This Betty loves flowers. For your appointment, go back and read the whole of your list. For the next time, we are looking at addressing the list. The precursor list sounds very French. Oh, you're talking about what is required for the visa or for the resident card for my appointment. I'm still not clear on the precursor. I'm not. Can you rephrase the whole question so that I can get the flow of what you're asking? Because I really want to address that. Thank you. Ah, thank you. Yeah. So roundtables are wonderful. If you are interested in getting on a wait list for the roundtable, what you can do is you can send me an email and say wait list, and I will put you on that. And I'm going to drop the email address in the chat. All right, there we go. Just put that in the chat. All right. So I think I've been through all of my stories, or all the stories I want to share, because I have more. I'll tell you that. I do want to touch on two other things. I briefly spoke about knowing your why is vitally important when you are starting anything really big, like a move abroad. If you can drill down into the core reason that you are doing this, and what you will be able to have to be experience or become in moving through all of the challenges that you will face in doing it, and then you remind yourself of your why often, so that when challenges come up for you, you can swat away the doubt or the fear or the uncertainty with your why statement. Your why statement's kind of like a mantra that helps you to kind of stay the course, keep your eye on the prize, whatever you want to say, whatever saying you want to say. Right. So that is really important. And if that's something that you would like my help with, maybe we're going to do a roundtable around developing your why. Then definitely reach out to me. I do one-on-one coaching, as well as my group coaching program, the Carefree Expat Incubator. If you're a single woman and you're making this move abroad alone, you don't have to do it and feel like you're doing it all alone. That program has been amazing. The women who are a part of that program start to feel like family. And there's group coaching, but there's also a curriculum that takes you through developing what's your why, creating a vision for yourself once you get to your new country. Because the thing is, another thing that brings this uncertainty is that when you move to a new country, your identity starts to shift and change. And so you've got all this uncertainty about being in this new country, and then you're starting to not really know who you are or recognize yourself. And so that is kind of like an earthquake too. And so, creating or building or developing or stepping into that new identity even before you make that move abroad can help you to stabilize yourself and find your equilibrium. And so that's a part of the group coaching program as well. But one-on-one, I work with people on their why statements as well. So if you're interested in working with me, I would love to have a conversation with you. And you can book a complimentary discovery call by going to thecouragecatalyst.com, future expat. Um, and you can book your call. We'll have a conversation. You can share with me what you're working through. If you're in the planning stages of making a move abroad, I work with people there. If you've already made the move abroad and you're feeling a little bit unstable, this uncertainty thing is really, you know, knocking you for a loop, and you'd like to, create some strategies that will help you move through it more peacefully, because I think that's the thing. It's so disruptive on an emotional level, that if you can have these things that help you to feel calmer as you go through it, it's a game changer. All right, so go ahead and book that with me today, and I'm going to drop that link in the comments as too, as you do that. But the identity shift, hold on, I can't do two things at one time. All right. All right, here we go. But the identity piece, I think, is something that people don't think about. I think a lot of times people think, okay, the things that I need to care for, and these are really important, but they're not the only things that need to be cared for. Are I need to find a place to live. I need to have somebody help me with my visa if you feel that you need that. For the visas that I applied for, I did not get help except for having somebody help me review my business plan when I went for the profession liberal visa. So I think it's something, and I had a visitor visa and a profession liberal visa. And so I felt that it was something that I could do. But again, my background is project management. So if that's not your wheelhouse and you feel like you want support, that's something you may want to do. But there are other things that are important to care for, so that once you get here, that you're really having the kind of life that you want when you are here, right? I think that's the thing that sometimes gets missed, and why people can struggle to settle in more quickly, or start to question themselves, second guess their decision to make a move abroad. That was something that I did actually in the beginning too. I didn't question getting here. I knew I needed to get here. Like I said, it was something that was driving me to get here. But then I got here, and 2 weeks later, it was like, ooh, what have I done? I quit my job, living off of savings. I don't know anybody. My French is not as good as I thought it was when I was studying it back in the States. And so that kind of was something that kind of threw me for a loop, and I had to keep on. At that point, I had been through coach training, so I had some techniques, but I had to work to talk myself off the ledge, which is why I created the Carefree Expat Incubator Program, because it's a program that I wish I had when I moved abroad on my own. All right. So let's see if there is anything else before we wrap things up. Ah, yes, the lists. Oh, you're on a list. Yes. Um, and I reread that email just today, and I'm like, well, what does that mean once we start scheduling the next batch? Um, so you think you're on the list, and maybe I am on the list, and maybe I'm not. Just that's again, that's with the uncertainty. Oh, hi, France Imports. Kristen and Scott. Yes, you're late. You're late for a very important date. We're wrapping things up. How are you? So glad you could join. I think that keeping focus and development of courage and building community. Is this a question, or is this um, a suggestion for a topic for a roundtable? Um, I think that keeping focus and development of courage and building community. Um, yes, it's important. Is there a question around that? Let me know that. All right. Yes. Okay. Gary says, I know my why pretty strongly. That's wonderful, right? And that has to feel good to you. You have to feel like, yeah, I know I'm doing this. This is not a fluke. This is what I need to be doing. Need help with what comes next from there. I would also be solo. May set up a yes, definitely. We can talk through where you are, what things you may be struggling with, what you might need help with, and what might be a good path forward for you. All right. And I think that's what comes next, because I think a big reason that I had that 2 week honeymoon period, and then I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Was I had spent so much time getting to France, the documents. And I think there was a question that I overlooked about the house, renting out the house. I need to go back to that. Cleaning out the house, all of that to get to France that I hadn't really thought about. Okay, well, what am I going to do when I'm there? And if you're moving to a new country and you're not moving there and having just retired, or taking a sabbatical like I did, then your days are probably going to be pretty full with administration and with the job that you're working. But if you're coming and you are maybe newly retired, or you're taking a sabbatical, you're gonna have a lot of time to think. And I did not have my next project. And what helped me to kind of move through some of that instability initially was I was a guest on a podcast. And I remember the host interviewing me, and I'm like, oh, I think I want to be a podcast host. And so that was my first project here. I started the Discovery and Courage podcast, and I didn't know anything about podcasting. I didn't know anything about equipment. I didn't know how to ask for the equipment at the music store, what were the terms or anything. So I was learning from the ground up. And so that took a lot of time. It allowed me to focus on something that I wanted to do, and that was productive. And so what comes next is, once you're here, I think is really important, so that you can ease into and not have so much time to think, and to and do something that you truly want to do. So definitely, I look forward to having a complimentary session with you, Carrie. Let's see. Okay, so this could be a topic: keeping focused, and developing the development of courage and building community. So that could be three. The roundtables are 3 hours long, and in 3 hours, like, it's like, where did the time go? So the development of courage, that's what my work is all based on. The building community one, I think, is important too, because um, I think as adults, it's harder for us to kind of know. And I think I actually already did one on that. Maybe it's time to look at that one and bring that back around. But really, being able to, step out of our comfort zones and meet people, do the things that are necessary to build community, and do that, even if you haven't made your move abroad, start that process before you move, because then when you're in a new country, things your personality is going to be different. And even if you feel introverted in your current country, you're still going to be more stable. So stepping out of your comfort zone in your current country and going to events or what have you is something that will be easier. And then once you start to build that muscle when you're in your new country, then it'll be even easier. So building community, I think, might be a good one. Thank you for suggesting that. All right. Ah, the uncertainties that come with navigating a move in a volatile world. Um, yes. Tell me more about what you would. I think this is a topic. I'm assuming this is a topic. Um, Tell me more about the volatile world piece. Um, I think maybe perhaps it has to do with the fear of, oh, maybe this could be like an example. Oh, I'm moving from one country because, well, I don't necessarily agree with how the government is going. And so I'm going to move to this other country, but maybe this other country is kind of going in that same direction. And I get there, and then, I've made this big move, and, I've moved to a country that has similar, politics. I think that might be what you're getting at, Dion. Let me know if that is, and if this is um, a topic for. And I think that could also be causing some uncertainty around the where, right? Where is it that you want to go? That's good ideas. All right, let me drop this banner back to the comments. Let's see what else we have. All right, so, and Carrie, I'm assuming you're talking about navigating a move in a volatile world, but I would need to know a little bit more so that I could create a program around that. Like, what is the concern there? Because the world has always been volatile, right? There's, people say that the only constant is change. Like, there's always change going on, and sometimes there seems to be more change than at other times. But uh, give me more. Let's see. Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me, Dion, and share a little bit more about that, because that could work. But I also like the idea of building community and making friends. Um, I think that I had that roundtable sometime last year, and that was a good one as well. All right. Is uh, is Kristen still here? Kristen, what are your thoughts on what the topic of the next roundtable should be? All right. So I want to kind of start to wrap this up. Um, my strategies for moving through the struggles that I faced, or the uncertainties that I faced, was Um, number one was take action, right? I had that smelly apartment, and I just said, okay, I got to find a new apartment. And I started looking, and that helped clear the way for me to understand what it was that I needed to do to be able to get out of my lease. Accept what you can't control. I think somebody had commented, made a really valuable comment, and that uncertainty is all about wanting to be in control and not being in control. And so finding ways to say, okay, um, this is something that I am not in control of, and learning to embrace that. Um, and it's easier said than done. Uh, Trust that the work that you're putting in will pay off. Like, this is around the language learning. how it may seem like you're not making any progress. It may feel like you're not making any progress. But if you continue to practice, if you continue to study, if you're consistent with that, you're going to move forward. And you're going to see one day, like, oh, I really have advanced. And it's going to all make it worthwhile. But as you're going through it, there's the uncertainty of, will I ever get this language down? All right. And as you go through visa appointments, prepare as much as you can. Vision yourself going into the appointment, and then allow and let go. And know that number 5 is know that you've lived a lot of life, and in that you have had successes, you have moved through challenging things, you have moved through uncertain times, and knowing that things work out. Sometimes they don't work out the way we want to, but sometimes when they don't work out the way they want to, that we want to, that can be a blessing in disguise. And so knowing that things are going to work out, that you're going to move through this too shall pass, are ways to kind of a way of accepting and moving through. So those are the 5 strategies I used to move through. If you've got, and there's another question here, if you've got other strategies that help you with uncertainty, let me know what those are in the comments, because it could help other people as well. Okay. Laura, that's good. Um, Climate change, wars, are Americans welcome? Right. And there's some things that, like, there's some things you can research, right? You can do your research, you can visit. But there's some things that, if it's a volatile world, there's some things that can change that you don't anticipate. Like for me, with getting the 10-year card, for me, once I get that, I'm going to go for citizenship. Well, the bar has been raised. Like the language requirements have increased. I had to take those 2 civics exams. Like, so there's things that are changing. And I think that, like with climate change, that's true. Here in France, this summer has just been very, 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 very hot and very unpleasant. So yeah, dealing with those things, I think, are challenging, and I think that a big piece of that is understanding what it is that you will be able to handle and what you won't, so that as you can look toward the future and kind of try to see that you find yourself in a country that is more suitable for you, even if things do change to some degree. Um, and then the Americans welcome thing, yeah, that's that's something that I still feel welcome here in France, but will that always be the case? Yeah, that's a good question. I think that having I think one of the things that can help with this is, and we're not going to solve this here, but is that deeper why, right? Moving abroad in volatile times. Well, why are you moving abroad in the first place? Right? What's your deeper why? Why is that so important to you? And if you can come back to that, I think that will help with some of this process. But there's a lot to unpack there, and I need to kind of sit with that and see if how I could make that a roundtable. And definitely, I like the community one, building community, and friendships one. Definitely, there's a lot we can cover there. Okay, and this is the other thing. This is the other thing, Dion. I think we spoke about this before. These are scary times, but I know I have to release what I can't control. Just stay on top of current events and educate as much as possible. Yes and no. Because I feel like, I think sometimes if we don't want to have our head in the sand, but we don't want to necessarily, follow the news so closely that we're petrified, because like we're hyper vigilant, because oh, this is happening and this is happening, and we don't, and the news just gives us the bad news, doesn't talk about what's going well. And so if you're hyper focused on, filling up with all of that, then the world can feel even more volatile than it is, and that can cause you stress, and you have these feelings of uncertainty really really start to well up. So yes, I think that we need to be aware, but we also need to have balance. And I found personally, when I start going down that rabbit hole, I can't turn away from the train wreck. Like, my mental health suffers, and I'm demotivated. So I know that I can't be as informed as I normally would be. All right, thank you for that, Dion. Um, A great question. As an American here in the US, I feel even here, depending, yes, depending on your background, you can be just as unwelcome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I want to thank everybody who joined me live today. If you are interested in joining a Women Rising Roundtable, the upcoming one in September, date to be determined, subject to be determined, shoot me an email at hello@thecouragecatalyst.com saying you want to be put on the wait list. And in the next several days, I'm going to have the date, I'm going to have the topic, and so that you can, and the page set up so that you can sign up for that. If you are dealing with uncertainty, maybe you're not sure exactly where you want to move, and that's creating some strife in your life. Maybe you've already made a move abroad and you're struggling with, well, who am I now? You don't know what's next. Or maybe you are getting ready to move and you'd like to kind of have that ironed out. I do one-on-one coaching. I do have the Carefree Expat Incubator program for single women who are moving abroad. The best way to figure out which one of those services is best for you is to get on a complimentary discovery call. And in the chat, I've already put the website where you can sign up for that, thecouragecatalyst.com, future expat. All right. This has been a wonderful live. This is something I decided to do just yesterday. So it's been a lot of work in process getting this up and going. But I am so glad that you were able to join me live. And if you are watching from the future, you're watching the replay, thank you for watching. And if you have not yet, be sure to give this video a thumbs up so that it will help with the algorithm. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Carrie. I'm glad this was helpful. And I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye for now.